Today I'm going to give you a move checklist, a list of questions that you should ask yourself before you make any move in a game of chess. And this is going to help you not only to find the best move in a position, but also to avoid making blunders. But before we begin the video, I'd like to thank you guys for subscribing to the channel, because yesterday we hit the mark of 100 subscribers, yay! And considering that I started uploading in this channel like 1 month ago, this is actually pretty good. So thank you so much for giving me the support, I really appreciate it. And if you're watching this video and you're still not subscribed, what are you waiting for? Click the subscribe button down below. Hit the notification bell icon so you can receive notifications whenever I upload some videos. I promise you it's not going to hurt and it doesn't cost any money, so please support the channel and let's go back to the video. So I divided this video in 5 steps, 5 questions that you should ask yourself before you make any move in a game of chess. And the first question that you should ask yourself is assessing the position and asking, what does my opponent last move do? So for this, to illustrate, I chose a position that I'm really familiar with, which is the 4-knight Scotch. So it all starts with e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, you play knight c3, and your opponent plays knight f6. This is the 4 knights game, and you play the Scotch variation with d4. Your opponent's probably going to take, you take back with the knight, and here we have a very typical position in the 4-knight Scotch. Your opponent may play a variety of moves here, but bishop c5 is one of them. And I chose this one because it's a very good example to illustrate the first question you should ask yourself before you make any move. And the first question is, what does my opponent last move do? What is this move doing in the position? What is this move changing in the position? And here, it's pretty obvious. Black is just developing a piece, but it's not only that, they are actually attacking our knight. Now we have 2 pieces attacking our knight and just 1 defender, so we should address this. And more often than not, this first question is just to find if there are any forcing moves that we should be playing in the position, because sometimes certain moves of our opponents, they need some immediate attention. For example, this move right here. I cannot play like a random move like this, for example, because they're actually threatening to take my piece. My piece is under attack, so I have to address this immediately. I have no time to play any other move. So this first question is to really avoid making stupid blunders like this knight is under attack, so I have to address this. How can I address this? Well, there are several ways. I can trade the piece, I can move it away, attacking the bishop, or I can add another defender. And me personally, I prefer to just add another defender by developing the bishop. There are some arguments why this move is better than the others, because it's developing a piece and at the same time supporting the knight here, so maybe it's better than the other options, but all the other options are playable too. There are many variations here. What you should be doing is addressing the issue, because here your knight is under attack and you should be doing something about it. So that's the first question you should ask yourself before you make any move is, what is my opponent last move doing? What is it changing in the position? Is it attacking any of my pieces? So you should ask yourself this question so you can find how to react to some immediate moves, some threats that you deserve immediate attention. So this is the first question. The second question you should ask yourself is, do I have any tactics in the position? And this is very important because we should have 2 gears when we play a game of chess. We should have like a tactical gear and a positional gear. And we should shift from positional to tactical according to the necessity, right? So the first thing is we should look at a position from a tactical standpoint first, and then a strategic positional standpoint later. So it's always following this idea. You have to first look for tactics and then for positional ideas. So first tactics and positional strategic ideas later. And what do I mean by that? Before you look for positions, for moves that improve your position, you should look for immediate tactics. This is the question you should ask yourself. Are there any immediate tactics that I can go for and win a piece or win a pawn, right? So any combinations. And you should try to look for those. Just like when you solve a puzzle, you should look for checks, captures, and attacks, moves that are forcing. So here, let's use this as an example. If your opponent is careless in this position and after you play bishop to e3, they go ahead and castle, there's an immediate tactic that you can go for here and win a piece. So if you take a look at this bishop here, you can see that it's undefended. This bishop is loose. And you have this knight that can jump here, taking this knight and attacking this queen at the same time, while releasing this bishop attack like a discovery attack on the bishop. And they don't have enough time to address both issues at the same time. So when you take this piece, you are attacking the queen, and you can use that concept of danger levels that Levy teaches in his channel. And the idea here is we're attacking a stronger piece, and they have to address the issue. They can't simply ignore that. They can't just take our bishop, because otherwise we just take the queen over there, right? So they have to do something about that immediately. So we take this knight here. They're going to take not with this pawn right here, because otherwise we can trade queens. So they're going to take with this pawn, and now this piece is loose, so we can go ahead and grab it. Basically here we are just winning a piece. And this is an immediate tactic that we can go for. First of all, before looking for positional moves and strategic moves, we should look for tactics. So tactics first, positional and strategic improvements later, because if we have an immediate tactic, we should go for it first. So this is the second question you should ask yourself before you make a move. After you assess the position, after you assess your opponent's last move, you should ask yourself, are there any immediate tactics that I can go for? Okay, now that you looked for tactics, you should ask yourself a different question. You should shift to the positional gear, and if there are no tactics available in the position, you should try to look for a move that improves your positional overall, your position overall. So you should look for moves that just improve your position and keep your pieces more active. So this is the third question you should ask yourself. How can I improve my position? And by improving my position, I mean looking for pieces that can be more active. So we would look for those sad pieces in our position that are not very active, that are still not developed, like this bishop, the queen here, and we should look for a move that improves the position overall, okay? So here, black's probably going to play a move like d6, and you just drop your bishop back, right? Because here we have an immediate threat. Black is attacking our bishop, and we have to assess the position. Remember, this is the first question. The first question we should ask ourselves is, what is my opponent's last move doing? My opponent is just attacking my piece, and I should address this immediately. I have no time to do anything else, unless I have like an in-between move, but that's not the case. So we're just going to address this issue by dropping the bishop back and saving our piece. We're not going to just lose a piece for nothing. And here, let's say your opponent plays a move like bishop to e6. This is not the best move for black in this position. It's just one example that we can go for, just to see how can we improve the position. Now, in this position, there are no immediate tactics, no immediate combinations or checks or captures that are, worth it, that win a piece or a pawn for us. So we should be looking for a move that just improves our position overall. And those moves are, for example, this move right here is a move that is going to support this central pawn. It's a good move that we can go for. I like this one. Bishop to e2 is just developing a piece and clearing the way for castling next move. And I think this is probably the best move here. There are some other possibilities in this position, but I think that this move, bishop to e2, is the best one. We're just developing a piece, improving this sad bishop here, developing it. It's more active now, and we are preparing to castle next move, connect our rooks, right? Okay, the queen is in the way yet, but we're going to move it sooner or later. So this is just overall a move that improves our position, okay? So we can keep doing that. If your opponent goes for rook e8, we can just castle. We are improving our position. We are developing this rook and putting the king into safety. This is just a move that overall positionally improves our position. We are now up a piece, so we should be looking for trades as well. This is the third question you should ask yourself. If there are no immediate tactics, no forcing moves, how can I improve my position? How can I make a sad piece happier? Now, the fourth question that you should ask yourself is, how can my opponent reply to my move? What are the most obvious responses that black can go for if you're playing white, of course, or white if you're playing black? What are the most obvious responses that my opponent can go for when I make my move. So we should be considering those things, and it's interesting. Let's imagine in this position, your opponent plays d5. Now, we should assess the position. Remember, we should assess our opponent's last move. They are attacking our pawn now. If we play like a silly move, for example, h3, opponent's actually threatening to take this piece because, you know, they have 2 attackers and we have just 1 defender. We should be doing something about this, otherwise we're just losing a pawn for nothing. So the best thing to do here is to just do something about this pawn. We can, for example, play this move, trying to defend it. Bishop to f3 defends the pawn. It's a good idea. We can advance the pawn. There are some options that we can go for here. Even this move, I think kind of works, but I think this one and this one are the best ones in this position. Okay, so what if we do this? We should be asking ourselves before we move, what is my opponent's most obvious move after I make this move? So when I make this move, I push the pawn, I'm attacking this knight, so probably the most obvious thing that my opponent is going to do is move this knight somewhere, right? So they can go maybe knight back, it's an option, or they can move the knight forward, right? And here we should start calculating a little bit. But don't worry, we don't have to calculate like 10 moves ahead. We should just calculate 2 or 3 moves that are the most common or most obvious move that pop into your mind right after you make this move. So let's calculate a little bit, just a little bit. Let's imagine we push here, opponent goes with the knight here. They're attacking our knight, so maybe we can go for a trade. Trades are good for us since we're up material. And they're going to capture back with the pawn because they have no other good option. Then the queens are going to be staring each other, so we can trade queens and go for an endgame where we're up a piece, and that would be pretty good for us, right? So I think this is not bad. After we take the queen, they might take back with the rook. We can encourage more trades by bringing some of the other rooks to the central file here, and opponent's pawn structure is very bad. We have a piece up, so we're basically winning this endgame, right? So going for an endgame is not a bad idea. I think this move e5 is a pretty good move. Opponent's probably going to play knight e4. We're going to trade. They take back. We take the queen. And this is exactly what happens in this position. After rook after d1, maybe black's going to take the rook and trading is good for us. We're contesting this open file. This is a great position for us, right? So it's a pretty good example of the 4th question that we should ask ourselves before making any move, which is just asking ourselves, what is my opponent's most obvious response, my opponent's most obvious reply to the move that I'm just about to make? And finally, the 5th question that you should ask yourself before you make any move is not actually one question, but you should ask like several questions. It's a blunder check. It's a final blunder check. You're just double checking to see if you're not forgetting anything, if nothing got in the way and you just missed something in your thought process. So you're just going to ask yourself some questions just to check if you're making any blunder in the position. So you're going to ask you, is my king safe? Is my king getting checkmated somehow? And looking at this position here, it looks like it's not going to be checkmated. So your king is pretty safe. We still have back rank issues maybe, but we're covering this square a lot, so it's not easy for black to infiltrate. We should just keep in mind that we can always blunder, you know, a back rank checkmate if we don't pay attention to it. So in this case, my king is pretty safe. So we should ask ourselves, is my king safe? Is my queen safe? Queens are off the board, so we can skip that. Are my pieces safe? You know, am I blundering any piece here? So I can see that all my pieces are defended. This bishop is still not defended, but it's not being attacked, so it's not a big deal. And we would love to trade this bishop maybe, and we are going to have one less piece on the board, so trading the rooks and bishops are going to leave us with an extra bishop, which is, that's why we're trading here, because we're up a piece. So for us, we're not hanging any piece, our king is safe, our queens are off the board, but it's safe. Pieces are safe, so we're not blundering anything. We're just making this check. And before we make the move, let's say we intend to just capture a piece or do something. Here is just black to move. They can go for the trade or do something else. Before we make any move, we should ask ourselves another question that is very interesting to ask is, am I undefending anything when I play this move? So let's imagine, for example, we go for a move like this. Just imagining the possibility, right? We have to keep in mind that when we make this move, we are undefending this bishop. We always have to keep in mind when we do this, it's not going to make any difference in this position here, but sometimes it does, you know? So sometimes when you make a move like this, you have to keep in mind that when you make a move, you sometimes undefend something. In this case right here, we could be undefending this bishop. It's not a big deal in this case, but sometimes we have to keep that in mind. So undefending a piece is dangerous. Or another question that you should ask is this square available to my piece? Can I actually move this piece there? Because sometimes, for example, let's imagine black does some silly moves here and we go and play this, for example. This square is not available for our bishop because, you know, we're just blundering, straight up blundering a bishop here, one move blunder. I should ask myself those questions like, can I actually make this move? Is this square available to my piece or not? In this case here, we would just be blundering a piece for no reason whatsoever. I'm of course using some silly examples here, but this actually happens in our real games and you guys probably know that. So the fifth question you should ask yourself, actually a series of questions, is can I actually make this move? You have to make a blunder check. I mean, is my king safe? Is my queen safe? Are my pieces defended? Am I undefending any piece when I make this move? Or another example, can I actually make this move? Is this square available to my piece? And do some, you know, very little calculations to see if it works or not. So just to remind you, let's go over all the questions yet again. The first question, what does my opponent last move do? What is my opponent last move doing? You assess your opponent's last move and see if you need to react to it right away. The second question, do I have any tactics available? If there are any tactics, any checks, captures, attacks that can win you a piece or a pawn, you should go for them first. And then you shift to your positional gear and you look for moves that improve your position overall, making your pieces more active, developing pieces, castling, things like that. Then you should ask yourself the fourth question, what are the most obvious responses to my move? What are the responses that my opponent can go for? The most obvious one, you should calculate a little bit maybe. And then you finally make a final blunder check just to see if you missed anything, just to double check. So you might be asking yourself like, hey, Victor, but that's just too much. I can't do this in a blitz game. And yes, of course, you cannot do this in a blitz game because there's not enough time to go for all these questions, to go through all this checklist. This list of questions is just too much for a blitz game. That's why we should be playing longer time controls, rapid, or even classical. You should be going for those first. And as you become more familiarized with this process, these steps are going to become more internalized, and you're going to start recognizing some patterns as well, and you can go through these processes more quickly. That's why we should be playing longer games first, longer time controls, because this is going to make you feel more comfortable doing this in faster time controls. So that's pretty much it, guys. If you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, leave your comment down below. And as always, I see you guys in the next one.